Coming up next, most people know that vitamin E is good for you, but more is not always better. We'll tell you why. Global News is next.
Tonight on Global News, demanding answers. A woman is sent home with a stillborn fetus still inside her. Bail denied. The lawyer for Mike Ferguson plans a constitutional challenge. Musical memories. Timeless tunes for Remembrance Day. And on Global National, the U.S. Army tightens the noose around Fallujah.
You're watching Global News Calgary with Linda Olson and Tony Ty.
Good evening. An angry Calgary woman is demanding answers tonight from the Calgary Health Region.
Amy Michaud was 5.5 months pregnant when she noticed her baby wasn't moving. Doctors at Foothills Hospital told her the baby had died. They sent her home because there weren't any beds. Michaud was finally admitted the next night and delivered the baby the following morning. Paul Custer spoke with Michaud at length today. Paul, Michaud is furious with the way she was treated here.
Well, yes, Tony, she is. Not only had she just been informed that her unborn baby was dead, but she was told, according to Amy, that she wasn't allowed to stay at the hospital and that she would have to come back.
No, I couldn't believe it. I was hysterical. I couldn't believe what actually just happened, and then I had to go home and to deal with it on my own.
Now, Amy says that she was offered to get some counseling through the health region a couple of days later. She has not done that, but is thinking about doing that once she's had some time to absorb this.
Now, the Calgary Health Region has reviewed this case, and late this afternoon we were told normally Amy Michaud would have been placed in the hospital's bereavement room and offered counseling. But that night the room was full and there were no beds in the hospital. We'll hear more from the Health Region coming up on the news at 6.
A former RCMP officer was denied bail in a Calgary court this morning. Michael Ferguson was convicted of manslaughter in the death of a prisoner 5 years ago. Darren Varley was in a Pincher Creek jail cell when Ferguson shot him. Now a judge has decided the former constable should stay in jail until he's sentenced. But as David Boucher reports, Ferguson's lawyer plans to launch a constitutional challenge.
You have a lot of support.
5 years, 3 trials, a bail hearing, and it's still not over. It's been a long and difficult road for Mike Ferguson and Darren Varley's families. Connie Varley is glad Ferguson was denied bail. She says so far justice is prevailing.
I've definitely hung in, waiting for the justice system to work, and as you can see today, he stays in jail, so far the system is working, slowly but surely, and I just hope it never derails.
The judge hearing the application agreed with the Crown that it wouldn't be in the public's interest to release Ferguson on bail.
It brings the administration of justice into disrepute, or it would. And the average citizen, I think, would be somewhat bewildered and try and have a hard time understanding why that could be.
Legislation passed in the mid-1990s states that anyone convicted of manslaughter in which a firearm was used must serve a minimum of 4 years in prison. But Ferguson's lawyer is applying for a constitutional exception, saying this case is unique because police officers are required to carry guns.
It's our contention that in the circumstances of this case, that would amount to a cruel and unusual punishment, which is contrary then to Constitution of Canada.
Earl Wilson says he'll argue for a conditional sentence to be served in the community. The Varley family is strongly opposed.
He's a convicted criminal and therefore should do the time that's written in the law book, like everybody else has to do.
When asked how Ferguson is faring in prison so far, his lawyers said, "You can imagine a police officer in custody. It's very, very tough." David Boucher, Global News at Court of Queen's Bench.
Mike Ferguson did not attend today's bail hearing. Sentencing and constitutional arguments will be heard in Lethbridge next month.
A man is in serious condition in hospital tonight after a bad crash in the city's northeast. It happened around 10 o'clock this morning on 16th Avenue and Russet Road.
You're lucky it ripped it off the thing, eh? Right, yeah, it ripped it itself.
Police say a white minivan was going west on 16th when the driver tried to turn left onto Russet Road. The van collided with a car. The driver and a 46-year-old man in the car were taken to hospital. He's suffering from a serious head injury and an injured hip, but is expected to live.
There was an almost miraculous escape for a Calgary truck driver today. He narrowly missed being decapitated when some metal pipes on his flatbed truck came loose and smashed through the windows of his cab. Police are looking at whether the load was properly secured. A young man is in critical condition after he was hit while crossing the street. Just after 6:30 this morning, he was walking across Center Street in a marked crosswalk when he was hit by a vehicle heading north. He suffered a head injury, chest injuries, and multiple fractures. The man was not carrying any ID, so police haven't been able to identify him. He is between 18 and 20 years old.
A warehouse fire in the southeast has caused close to $500,000 in damage. Fire crews were called out last night to Continental Electric Motor Services. The fire had been burning in the building for some time before they were able to extinguish it. It has caused extensive smoke damage. A malfunction in a curing oven sparked the blaze.
We're learning more about the voting scandal in Ward 10 in last month's civic election. The returning officer says mail-in ballots ordered online were accidentally printed twice. A computer error was to blame. 25 of the duplicated ballots were filled in and sent back, but the returning officer says they didn't factor in the election.
And it was very easy to identify those duplicates when they came back because of the rest of the system. They were segregated, and just as everything else in that mail-in in Ward 10, they were not counted.
Today, the alderman defeated in Ward 10 formally filed for a judicial review of the election. Louis Kudus will have that part of the story ahead at 5:30.
A private school in Mission remains closed, waiting for the results of air quality.